The email arrived at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, sitting in my inbox like a ticking bomb I didn't know I was about to step on. I'm filing for divorce. Please respect my space. Julia. That was it. 15 years of marriage, 2 kids, a mortgage, and countless shared dreams reduced to 2 sentences that could fit on a fortune cookie. I stared at my laptop screen in my cluttered home office, surrounded by renovation blueprints and coffee-stained invoices, trying to process what I'd just read. My name is Eric Turner, and I run Turner Home Renovations, a small but steady business that's kept our family comfortable in our suburban paradise. At 39, I thought I had life figured out. House in a decent neighborhood, kids doing well in school, wife with a good job in HR. The American dream. Right? Wrong. I read the email again, then a third time. The clinical coldness of it hit me like a sledgehammer. No explanation, no attempt at discussion, no acknowledgement of our children or the life we'd built together. Just respect my space. I leaned back in my chair and laughed, a bitter, hollow sound that echoed off the walls of my suddenly very quiet house. Julia was at work, Zoe and Liam at school. The silence felt different now, charged with the electricity of change I hadn't seen coming. But here's the thing about being in the renovation business. You learn to spot structural problems before they bring the whole house down. And looking back, the signs had been there for months. The late nights at the office that stretched later and later. The mysterious girls' nights that lasted until noon the next day. The way Julia's phone was suddenly password protected after years of casual openness. The new clothes, the expensive perfume, the way she'd started caring about her appearance again, but not for me. And then there was Gavin Price. Gavin, the smooth-talking real estate broker who seemed to be just passing through our neighborhood an awful lot lately. Gavin with his flashy BMW and his $1,000 suits and his way of looking at my wife like I wasn't standing right there. Gavin, who'd been parking his car on our street more and more frequently, always with some excuse about showing properties in the area. I opened a new browser window and logged into our joint bank account. Time to see just how much space Julia thought she was entitled to. Withdrawals I didn't recognize, expensive dinners at restaurants we'd never been to together, hotel charges, shopping sprees that would make a lottery winner blush. My phone buzzed. A text from Pete Kowalski, my best friend since high school and the most reliable contractor I knew. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Beer tonight? Sarah's working late again. I typed back, rain check. Got some urgent business to handle. The urgent business was damage control. I called my lawyer, Jeff Faber, a dry, sardonic man who'd handled our house closing and a few contract disputes over the years. Jeff, it's Eric Turner. I need to see you today. My wife just filed for divorce via email. Charming. How modern of her. Can you be here in an hour? On my way. I forwarded Julia's email to Jeff, then did something that felt both calculated and satisfying. I moved every penny I could legally move out of our joint accounts and into my business account. If Julia wanted space, she could have all the space she wanted. She just wouldn't be financing it with my money. By the time I reached Jeff's office, I had a plan forming. Not revenge, not yet, but protection, self-preservation. Julia had fired the first shot, but she'd made a critical error. She'd underestimated me. Jeff's office smelled like old leather and fresh coffee. He was a thin man with graying hair and the kind of sharp eyes that missed nothing. He read Julia's email twice, then looked at me over his glasses. Well, this is refreshingly honest, he said. Most people spend months dancing around the issue. She's basically handed us a written declaration of abandonment. What does that mean? It means she's established the separation date and terms herself. Respect my space can be interpreted as a request for you to maintain the marital residence while she establishes separate living arrangements. Very helpful of her. I felt the first genuine smile I'd had all day creep across my face. So the house stays mine? The house stays yours? The kids stay with you? And she gets to explain to a judge why she abandoned her family via email. Jeff leaned back in his chair. Eric, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've seen nasty divorces and amicable ones. This isn't either. This is just stupid. She's given us everything we need. Walking back to my truck, I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. Not happiness, that would come later, but relief that the waiting was over. The pretending, the walking on eggshells, the wondering when the other shoe would drop. It had dropped, and I was still standing. My phone rang as I started the engine. Julia's number. Eric, we need to talk. Do we? Your email was pretty clear. You want space? You've got space. Don't be childish. We have things to discuss. Like what? Like how you've been spending our money on your boyfriend? Like how you've been lying to our kids? Like how you decided to blow up our family without having the guts to do it face to face? Silence. Then, I don't know what you're talking about. Gavin Price. Ring a bell? Or should I start reading off hotel receipts? The silence stretched longer this time. When she spoke again, her voice was different, sharper, more defensive. I'm not having this conversation over the phone. You're right. We're not having it at all. You want space? Congratulations. You've got all the space you can handle. I hung up and drove home, where I found Gavin's BMW parked in my driveway. Gavin was sitting on my front porch like he owned the place, checking his phone with the casual arrogance of a man who thought he'd already won. He looked up as I pulled into my own driveway, and I saw something flicker across his face. Not quite fear, but uncertainty. I took my time getting out of the truck, grabbing my toolbox from the back with deliberate slowness. Gavin stood up, smoothing down his expensive suit jacket. Eric, good to see you. Julia asked me to wait for her here. Did she now? I walked past him to my front door, fishing out my keys. That's interesting, considering she doesn't live here anymore. Look, I think there's been some misunderstanding. I turned to face him, and whatever he saw in my expression made him take a step back. The only misunderstanding is you thinking you're welcome on my property. You've got 30 seconds to get in that overpriced car and disappear. Eric, let's be reasonable. 20 seconds. Gavin's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then back at me. Julia's on her way. She'll be here in 10 minutes. Then she can meet you somewhere else. 15 seconds. He must have heard something in my voice that convinced him I wasn't bluffing. Gavin walked to his car but turned back before getting in. This doesn't have to be ugly, Eric. We're all adults here. You're right. It doesn't have to be ugly, but it's going to be. I watched him drive away, then went inside to wait for my wife. Ex-wife. Whatever she was now. Julia arrived 20 minutes later, letting herself in with her key like nothing had changed. She found me in the kitchen, making coffee and reviewing the bank statements I'd printed out. Where's Gavin? She asked. Gone. This is still my house, Julia. Your boyfriend isn't welcome here. She sat down across from me, and I got my first good look at her in weeks. She looked good, better than she had in years. New haircut, professional makeup, clothes that actually fit her properly. All paid for with our money, apparently. We need to discuss arrangements, she said. The kids, the house, finances. I slid the bank statements across the table. Let's start with these. Want to explain the $1,500 at the Ritz-Carlton last month? Or the shopping spree at Nordstrom the week before that? Julia glanced at the papers, but didn't touch them. I'm entitled to spend money from our joint account. Were, past tense. As of this afternoon, you're entitled to exactly nothing. That got her attention. You can't just freeze me out of our accounts. Actually, I can, and I did. Check with your boyfriend. I'm sure he knows all about asset protection. Julia's composure cracked slightly. Gavin isn't my boyfriend. He's a friend who's been helping me through a difficult time. Is that what we're calling it? Because the hotel receipts suggest your friendship is pretty intimate. I don't have to listen to this. No, you don't. You can leave. In fact, I'd prefer it. The kids will be home in an hour, and they don't need to see their mother making a scene. You can't keep me from my children. I'm not keeping you from anything. You're the one who wanted space, remember? You're the one who decided to file for divorce without discussing it. You're the one who's been sneaking around for months. I'm just giving you what you asked for. Julia stood up, her face flushed with anger. This isn't over, Eric. You're right. It's just getting started. After she left, I sat in my kitchen surrounded by financial documents and tried to figure out my next move. The house felt different now. Not empty, but expectant. Like it was waiting to see what would happen next. The kids came home at 4:30, full of their usual energy and school gossip. Zoe, my 11-year-old, was sharp as a tack and missed nothing. Liam, 8 years old and still young enough to believe the world was fundamentally fair, chattered about his art project while he ate his snack. "Where's Mom?" Zoe asked, looking around the kitchen. "She's staying somewhere else for a while," I said carefully. "We're having some grown-up problems that we need to work out." Zoe's expression told me she wasn't buying the sanitized version, but she didn't push. Liam, focused on his apple slices, just nodded. That evening, after homework and dinner and the usual bedtime routine, I called Pete. "Change of plans. I do need that beer. Can you come over?" Pete arrived with a six-pack and the kind of loyalty that comes from 20 years of friendship. He listened while I explained the situation, occasionally shaking his head or muttering creative descriptions of Gavin's character. "So what's the plan?" he asked when I finished. "Plan? Come on, Eric. I've known you since high school. You've got that look you get when someone tries to shortchange you on a job. You're not just going to roll over and let them walk all over you." He was right. I did have a plan, or at least the beginning of one. Julia had made this public by involving Gavin, by flaunting their relationship around the neighborhood. She'd chosen to humiliate me, to make me look like the clueless husband who was the last to know. But she'd forgotten something important. I knew everyone in this neighborhood. I'd done work on half the houses on our street. I coached Little League, served on the school board, organized the annual block party. Julia might work in HR, but this was my community. "I'm going to give her exactly what she asked for," I told Pete. "Space. All the space she can handle." Pete grinned. "Need any help with that?" "Might. You still have that truck with the winch?" "Always. What are you thinking?" I was thinking about Gavin's BMW and about how expensive German engineering looked when it was sitting on blocks in front of the whole neighborhood. But that was for later. "Nothing illegal," I said. "Nothing violent. But I'm done being the nice guy who takes it on the chin while his wife parades her boyfriend around town." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Charlotte Brooks, Julia's attorney. We need to schedule a meeting to discuss temporary arrangements." I showed the text to Pete. He whistled low. "She hired Charlotte Brooks? That's serious money. Good thing I moved our money first." I typed back, "Have your client call my attorney, Jeff Faber. All communication goes through him now." Within minutes, my phone rang. Julia. "Eric, this is ridiculous. We can handle this ourselves without lawyers getting involved." "You hired a lawyer first. I'm just keeping up. Charlotte is just helping me understand my options. And Jeff is helping me understand mine. Turns out I have more than I thought." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you made a mistake, Julia. You thought you could blindside me, take half of everything I've worked for, and ride off into the sunset with your boyfriend. But you forgot something." "What?" "I'm really good at fixing broken things. And when something can't be fixed, I'm really good at tearing it down." The soccer game was perfect. Saturday morning, half the neighborhood would be there, including most of the parents who'd been whispering behind my back for weeks. Julia arrived with Gavin, which was either incredibly bold or incredibly stupid. I was betting on stupid. Liam was playing midfielder for the Wildcats, and he was having a good game. I stood on the sidelines with my coffee, watching my son run up and down the field, trying to look like a normal dad at a normal game instead of a man whose life had imploded 3 days earlier. "Eric!" Tessa Martinez waved from across the field. She was Julia's best friend and the neighborhood's unofficial news network. If you wanted information to spread, you told Tessa. If you wanted to keep something quiet, you avoided her completely. She made her way over, her expression a carefully crafted mix of concern and curiosity. "How are you holding up?" she asked, touching my arm in that way people do when they're fishing for details. "I'm fine, Tessa. Thanks for asking. If you need anything, someone to watch the kids, help with meals, you just let me know." "I appreciate that." She glanced toward the parking lot where Julia and Gavin were walking toward the field. "This must be so hard for you." "What must be hard?" Tessa looked confused. She'd expected me to be broken, defeated, maybe a little desperate for sympathy. Instead, I was calm, even cheerful. "The situation with Julia." "Oh, that. Actually, it's been pretty liberating. Turns out I'm a better cook than I thought. And the house stays a lot cleaner without someone tracking mud through it all the time." I saw Tessa's mental gears turning. This wasn't the script she'd expected. Julia and Gavin found spots on the opposite sideline, but I could feel them watching me. Good. Let them wonder what I was planning. At halftime, Liam ran over for water and a pep talk. He was sweating and grinning, completely focused on the game. "We're winning, Dad. Did you see my assist?" "I saw it. Great pass, buddy." Gavin chose that moment to approach. He walked over with the confident stride of a man who thought he'd already won the war. "Eric, good to see you. Hell of a game." "It is. Liam's having his best season." "Listen, I was hoping we could talk, clear the air a little." I looked at him. Really looked. Gavin was handsome in a generic way, with the kind of smile that probably worked great on clients but felt fake in person. His clothes were expensive but flashy, like he was trying too hard to impress people who weren't paying attention. "Sure, Gavin. What's on your mind?" "I think there's been some misunderstanding about my relationship with Julia. We're just friends. I've been helping her through a difficult time." "That's generous of you. Most friends don't rack up hotel bills together, but I guess everyone shows support differently." Gavin's smile faltered. "I think you've got the wrong idea." "Do I? Because I've got receipts that suggest otherwise. Want me to read them out loud? I brought copies." I pulled a folded paper from my pocket. Gavin's eyes widened slightly. "Eric, let's be reasonable." "Oh, I'm being very reasonable. In fact, I'm being downright neighborly. See, most men in my situation might do something rash, might cause a scene, make accusations, get emotional. But not me. I believe in facts." I unfolded the paper and pretended to read from it, though I had the details memorized. October 15th, Ritz-Carlton. Room service for 2, champagne, chocolate-covered strawberries. October 22nd, same hotel, different room. November 3rd. Okay. Gavin held up his hands. "Maybe we should discuss this privately." "Why? We're all friends here, right? In fact, I think everyone should know what a good friend you've been to my wife." By now, we had an audience. Other parents had drifted closer, pretending to watch the game while obviously listening to our conversation. I saw Tessa practically vibrating with excitement. "You know what, Gavin? You're right. We should clear the air. So here's the truth. My wife has been having an affair with this man for months. She's been spending our money on hotel rooms and fancy dinners while I've been home with our kids. And when she finally decided to ask for a divorce, she did it via email. 2 sentences. 15 years of marriage, 2 sentences." The silence was deafening. Even the kids on the field seemed to sense something was happening. Gavin's face had gone red. "Eric, This isn't appropriate. What's not appropriate is screwing another man's wife and then showing up at his kid's soccer game like you belong here. What's not appropriate is parking your car in my driveway like you own the place. What's not appropriate is thinking you can destroy my family without consequences. I never meant for anyone to get hurt. But you did mean to sleep with my wife. You did mean to help her spend my money. You did mean to sneak around behind my back for months. You just didn't mean to get caught. Julia appeared at Gavin's side, her face pale with anger. Eric, that's enough. Is it? Because I'm just getting started. See, Julia, you wanted space. You wanted everyone to know about your new relationship. Well, congratulations. Now everyone knows. I looked around at the crowd of parents, all staring at us with expressions ranging from shock to fascination to barely concealed delight at witnessing such spectacular drama. My wife is leaving me for this man, I announced. She's been cheating on me for months, spending our money on hotel rooms, lying to our children, and sneaking around like a teenager. But hey, true love conquers all, right? Julia grabbed Gavin's arm. We're leaving. Good idea, I said. But Gavin? Next time you park in my driveway, make sure your insurance is paid up. Accidents happen. They walked away quickly, Julia's heels clicking on the asphalt. I turned back to my audience, most of whom were still staring at me with open mouths. Sorry about that, folks. Sometimes you just have to clear the air. Go Wildcats. The second half was a blur. The Wildcats won 3-2, but I barely noticed. I was too busy watching the other parents whisper among themselves, pulling out their phones, spreading the news through text messages and social media posts. By the time we got home, I had 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. The story was already spreading through the neighborhood like wildfire. Liam was thrilled about the win and chattered about it all the way home. Zoe was quieter, more observant. As we pulled into our driveway, she finally spoke. Dad, is Mom really not coming home? I don't know, sweetheart. That's up to her. Are you okay? I looked at my daughter in the rearview mirror. She had Julia's eyes but my stubborn chin, and right now she looked older than her 11 years. I'm going to be fine. We're all going to be fine. Good, she said, because Mom's been acting weird for months, and Gavin smells like too much cologne. That evening, after the kids were in bed, Pete came over with beer and updates. Dude, you're famous. The whole neighborhood's talking about what happened at the game. Good or bad? Mostly good. Turns out a lot of people suspected something was going on but didn't want to say anything. Gavin's been a little too friendly with several wives around here. You just confirmed what everyone was thinking. My phone rang. Jeff Faber. Eric, I just got off the phone with Charlotte Brooks. She's not happy about this morning's performance. What performance? The public humiliation of her client and her client's friend. She's threatening to file for emergency custody, claiming you're unstable. Based on what? Telling the truth? Based on your erratic and confrontational behavior in front of children and neighbors. Her words. I felt a cold anger settle in my chest. So Julia can cheat on me, spend our money, abandon our kids, and file for divorce via email, but I'm the unstable one? That's what she's claiming. But here's the thing. I've got Julia's email, bank records showing her unauthorized spending, and now witness statements from this morning confirming her affair. If she wants to play hardball, we can play hardball. After I hung up, I sat in my living room and planned my next move. Julia thought she could paint me as the crazy ex-husband, the bitter man who couldn't accept that his wife had moved on. She thought she could take my kids, my house, my reputation. She was wrong. I opened my laptop and started typing an email to the neighborhood association. It was time to let everyone know exactly what kind of man Gavin Price really was. The neighborhood Facebook group exploded overnight. My carefully worded post about recent events and the importance of community values had sparked a wildfire of comments, private messages, and shared stories. Apparently, Gavin had been just passing through a lot more neighborhoods than just ours. 3 different women had messaged me privately with their own Gavin stories. Nothing actionable, but enough to paint a picture of a man who made a habit of targeting married women in upscale neighborhoods. His real estate business was apparently just a cover for his real profession: home wrecker. I was reading through the messages when my phone rang. Unknown number. Is this Eric Turner? Depends who's asking. My name is Erica Price. I think we should talk. Gavin's ex-wife. This was interesting. What about? About what my ex-husband is doing to your family, and about what he's planning to do next. We met at a coffee shop across town, away from prying neighborhood eyes. Erica Price was nothing like I'd expected. She was small, blonde, and looked like she'd been through a war. But her eyes were sharp, and when she talked about Gavin, they turned hard as diamonds. He's done this before, she said without preamble. The real estate thing is just his hunting ground. He targets married women, usually ones with money or nice houses. He makes them feel special, neglected, misunderstood. Then he helps them find themselves right out of their marriages. How many times? That I know of? Your wife makes 4. There might be others. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. What happened to the others? Divorced, broke, and alone. Gavin's not looking for love, Eric. He's looking for easy money and easier targets. Once the divorce is final and he's gotten what he can out of them, he moves on. Why are you telling me this? Erica's smile was sharp as broken glass. Because I want him to pay. He destroyed my life, took half of everything I'd worked for, and left me with nothing but debt and a ruined reputation. I've been waiting 3 years for a chance to get back at him. What kind of chance? The kind where someone fights back instead of just rolling over and taking it. The kind where someone makes him face consequences for once. She slid a manila envelope across the table. Bank records, hotel receipts, photos, text messages, everything from our marriage and everything I've collected since. Some of it's probably illegal for me to have, but I don't care anymore. I opened the envelope. The contents were damning. Evidence of affairs, financial manipulation, even what looked like tax evasion. Why didn't you use this before? I tried, but Gavin's smart and he has good lawyers. He made me look like the crazy ex-wife who couldn't let go. But you're different. You're fighting back while it's happening, not after it's over, and you've got something I didn't have. What's that? Community support. People like you. They think Gavin's a sleazy opportunist, which he is. They think your wife made a mistake, which she did. If you play this right, you can destroy both of them without looking like the bad guy. That evening, I spread Erica's evidence across my dining room table and made plans. Not revenge, strategy. There's a difference. Revenge is emotional, sloppy, likely to backfire. Strategy is cold, calculated, and effective. Julia wanted to paint me as unstable. I'd show her what unstable really looked like. The next morning, I called in sick to work and drove to Julia's office building. She worked for a mid-sized consulting firm downtown, the kind of place where image was everything and scandal was career poison. I didn't go inside. Instead, I parked across the street and waited. At 11:30, Julia and Gavin emerged from the building together. They walked to a nearby restaurant, holding hands, laughing like they didn't have a care in the world. I took pictures. They had lunch on the patio, feeding each other bites of food, acting like lovesick teenagers. More pictures. When they finished eating, Gavin walked Julia back to her building. At the entrance, he kissed her goodbye. Not a quick peck, but a full romantic embrace in front of her workplace. Perfect. That afternoon, I printed the best photos and mailed them anonymously to Julia's boss with a simple note. Thought you should know what your HR manager does on her lunch breaks. Might want to check your policy on workplace relationships. Then I waited. The call came 2 days later. Julia, hysterical. What did you do? Good morning to you too, Julia. How's work? You know exactly how work is. I'm suspended pending an investigation into my conduct unbecoming an employee. They won't tell me who complained, but I know it was you. I have no idea what you're talking about. I've been busy working, trying to support my family. You remember family, right? Kids, responsibilities, that sort of thing. This is harassment, Eric. My lawyer says... Your lawyer says a lot of things. Most of them are wrong. For instance, she seems to think you can get emergency custody of our kids. Want to know what my lawyer thinks about that? Silence. My lawyer thinks a judge might be interested to hear about your hotel receipts, your workplace suspension, and your decision to abandon your children via email. He thinks a judge might wonder what kind of mother does that. I didn't abandon anyone. Really? Because you haven't been home in a week. You haven't called the kids. You missed Liam's parent-teacher conference and Zoe's piano recital. What would you call that? More silence. Here's the thing, Julia. You started this war, but you forgot something important. I know how to fight, and I fight to win. Every move you make, I'll make a counter-move. Every attack, I'll respond with something worse. You want to play hardball? Let's play. Eric, please, can't we work this out like adults? We could have, but you chose to handle it like a child. Email divorce, public affairs, workplace drama. You made this ugly, not me. What do you want? I want you to admit what you did. I want you to apologize to our kids, and I want Gavin out of the picture completely. I can't do that. Then we keep playing, and Julia, I'm just getting started. That night, Pete came over with Chinese takeout and a bottle of whiskey. So what's next? He asked, settling into my couch with a beer. Next, we make Gavin's life very uncomfortable. You still have that tow truck? Pete grinned. Always. What are you thinking? I'm thinking Gavin's BMW is illegally parked an awful lot. Public streets, handicapped spaces, fire zones. Someone should really do something about that. Someone should. Civic duty and all. Exactly. Can't have people thinking they're above the law. We spent the evening planning Gavin's very bad week. Nothing illegal, nothing that couldn't be explained as concerned citizenship or unfortunate coincidence. But by the time we were done, Gavin Price was going to wish he'd never heard of our neighborhood. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Charlotte Brooks. My client is prepared to discuss reasonable terms for an amicable divorce. Please have your attorney contact me. I showed the text to Pete. He laughed. Sounds like they're ready to negotiate. Sounds like they're scared. I typed back, my terms are simple. Full custody, house, assets, and a public apology. Non-negotiable. The response came quickly. That's unreasonable. So was cheating on me for 6 months. So was filing for divorce via email. So was trying to take my kids. Reasonable went out the window when your client decided to blow up my family. No response. I poured another whiskey and looked around my living room. 2 weeks ago, this had been a family home. Now it was a war room. The change should have made me sad, but instead, I felt energized, focused. For the first time in months, I knew exactly what I was doing and why. Julia had wanted space. Tomorrow, I was going to give her more space than she knew what to do with. Gavin's BMW got towed 3 times in 4 days, each time from a different location, each time completely legal. Expired meter, handicapped space, too close to a fire hydrant. The towing fees alone were probably costing him $1,000, not counting the impound charges and the time wasted getting his car back. But that was just the appetizer. On Thursday, I happened to be driving past the hotel where Gavin and Julia had been meeting when I noticed his car in the parking lot. I called the police to report a suspicious vehicle. After all, there had been several break-ins in that area recently, and a man sitting in an expensive car for hours at a time was definitely worth investigating. The police ran his plates, found an outstanding warrant for unpaid parking tickets, and arrested him right there in the hotel parking lot. Julia had to call a cab. Friday brought the pièce de résistance. I'd spent Wednesday evening researching Gavin's real estate business, and what I found was interesting. His license was current, but barely. He'd had several complaints filed against him, mostly from female clients who felt he'd been inappropriate. Nothing prosecuted, but a pattern. More importantly, he'd been claiming business deductions for personal expenses. The hotel rooms with Julia weren't being written off as business meetings, but some of his other romantic adventures were. That was tax fraud, plain and simple. I packaged up the evidence and sent it anonymously to the IRS, the State Real Estate Commission, and his business partner. Let them sort it out. By Friday afternoon, Gavin's phone was ringing constantly. His business partner wanted answers about the complaints. The Real Estate Commission wanted to discuss his conduct. The IRS wanted to schedule an audit. Julia called me that evening, sobbing, "You're destroying his life." "I'm not doing anything. I'm just making sure the appropriate authorities have accurate information about his business practices. This has to stop, Eric, please. It stops when you come home, apologize to our kids, and end this ridiculous affair." "I can't do that." "Then it doesn't stop." Saturday morning brought a new development. I was having coffee on my front porch when Tessa Martinez walked over from across the street. She looked nervous, which was unusual for her. "Eric, can we talk?" "Sure. What's on your mind?" "It's about Julia and Gavin." I waited. "I feel terrible about this, but I think you should know. Julia asked me to lie for her. She wanted me to tell you she was with me on the nights she was somewhere else." "Did you?" "A few times, yes. I'm sorry. I thought I was helping a friend through a rough patch. I didn't realize how serious things were." "What changed your mind?" Tessa sat down heavily in the chair next to mine. "Yesterday, Gavin called me. He wanted to know if I'd testify in court that you've been harassing them. He said Julia was afraid of you, that you'd been stalking them, making threats." And I told him he was crazy. "You're not harassing anyone. You're just not rolling over and playing victim like they expected. But Eric, they're planning something. Julia thinks if she can prove you're unstable, she can get the kids and the house." I felt that familiar cold anger settle in my chest. "What kind of something?" "I don't know exactly, but Gavin mentioned something about provoking you into doing something stupid, something public that would make you look bad." "Thanks for the warning." After Tessa left, I called Pete. "They're planning to set me up, make me look like the crazy ex-husband." "How?" "Not sure yet, but we need to be ready. And Pete, I think it's time to take the gloves off completely." That afternoon, I drove to the neighborhood where Gavin was supposedly showing properties. His BMW was parked outside a coffee shop, and through the window I could see him having an animated conversation with a woman I didn't recognize. She was crying. I went inside and sat at a table where I could hear their conversation. "Can't keep doing this," the woman was saying. "My husband is getting suspicious." "Just a little longer," Gavin replied. "Once the divorce is final, we can be together openly." "You said that about the last one. About Julia." There was another one. Another married woman. Another family being destroyed. I took out my phone and started recording. "Julia was a mistake," Gavin continued. "I thought she had more money than she does. But you're different, Michelle. You're what I've been looking for." "What about her kids? What about her husband?" "Not my problem. Julia made her choice. If she can't handle the consequences, that's on her." I had heard enough. I stood up and walked over to their table. "Excuse me, Michelle, is it? I think you should know something about your friend here." Gavin looked up, his face going pale. "Eric, what are you doing here?" "Having coffee. Couldn't help but overhear your conversation." "Michelle, I'm Eric Turner. Gavin's been having an affair with my wife for the past 6 months. Before that, it was someone named Patricia. Before that, someone else. You're just the latest in a long line." Michelle stared at Gavin. "Is that true?" "Michelle, don't listen to him. He's unstable. He's been stalking Julia and me." "I've been protecting my family from a predator," I interrupted. "Gavin makes a living destroying marriages. He targets lonely wives, makes them feel special, helps them find themselves right into divorce court. Then he moves on to the next victim. I pulled out my phone and played back the recording of their conversation. Julia was a mistake. I thought she had more money than she does, but you're different, Michelle. Michelle's face went white. She stood up, grabbed her purse, and walked out without another word. Gavin started to follow her, but I blocked his path. Sit down, Gavin. We need to talk. I don't have anything to say to you. Sure you do. You have a lot to say. For instance, you can tell me about your plan to make me look unstable. You can tell me about the setup you're planning. I don't know what you're talking about. Tessa told me everything. You want to provoke me into doing something stupid, something that will make me look like the crazy ex-husband. Well, congratulations. You've provoked me. Gavin looked around the coffee shop. Other customers were staring at us, some openly listening to our conversation. But here's the thing, I continued. I don't need to do anything stupid. I just need to keep telling the truth. The truth about what you are, what you do, how you destroy families for profit. The truth is more damaging than anything I could make up. You can't prove anything. Can't I? I've got hotel receipts, bank records, witness statements, and now a recording of you admitting that Julia was just a mistake, that you're already moving on to your next victim. How do you think that's going to play in divorce court? Gavin's confidence finally cracked. What do you want? I want you gone. Out of my wife's life, out of my neighborhood, out of my city. I want you to disappear completely. And if I don't, then I keep digging, I keep investigating, I keep exposing. And Gavin? I'm really good at my job. I find problems other people miss, and I fix them permanently. I leaned closer, lowering my voice so only he could hear. You made a mistake when you targeted my family. You thought I'd be like the other husbands, shocked, hurt, defeated. You thought wrong. I'm not going anywhere, and I'm not giving up. Every move you make, I'll be watching. Every lie you tell, I'll expose. Every woman you target, I'll warn. Your career is over, your reputation is destroyed, and your relationship with my wife is finished. The only question is, how much more damage you want to take before you admit defeat. Gavin stared at me for a long moment, then stood up and walked out of the coffee shop. I sat back down and finished my coffee, feeling more satisfied than I had in weeks. The war wasn't over, but I'd just won a major battle. My phone buzzed, a text from Julia. We need to talk, tonight, just the two of us. I typed back, my house, 8 o'clock, come alone. It was time to end this. Julia arrived at exactly 8 o'clock, which surprised me. Punctuality had never been her strong suit during our marriage, but apparently impending divorce had made her more conscientious about timing. She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, her makeup was smeared, and she was wearing the same clothes she'd had on yesterday. The confident, put-together woman who'd been parading around town with Gavin had been replaced by someone who looked like she hadn't slept in days. The kids? She asked as I let her in. At Pete's house. I thought we should have privacy for this conversation. She nodded and followed me into the living room. She sat on the edge of the couch like she was ready to run, while I settled into my chair. The same chair I'd been sitting in when I got her divorce email 2 weeks ago. Gavin's gone, she said without preamble. Gone where? I don't know. He packed up his apartment yesterday and left town. He said you'd made it impossible for him to do business here. I felt a surge of satisfaction, but kept my expression neutral. That's unfortunate. Is it? Because I think you planned this whole thing. I think you wanted him gone from the beginning. What I wanted was for my wife to stop cheating on me. What I wanted was for my family to stay together. What I wanted was for some sleazy real estate broker to stop destroying my marriage. But nobody asked me what I wanted. Julia started crying. Not the manipulative tears she'd used during arguments, but real, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. I've lost everything, she said. My job, my relationship, my reputation. Everyone in the neighborhood thinks I'm a terrible person. You are a terrible person, Julia. You cheated on your husband, lied to your children, and tried to destroy your family for a man who was already planning to dump you for someone else. What? I pulled out my phone and played the recording from the coffee shop. Julia listened to Gavin's voice, explaining how she'd been a mistake, how he'd thought she had more money, how Michelle was what he'd really been looking for. When it finished, Julia was staring at me with an expression I'd never seen before, complete defeat. "He was using me," she whispered. "Yes. The whole time, he was just using me." "Yes. And you knew." "I suspected, but I had help figuring it out." I told her about Erica Price, about the pattern of affairs, about Gavin's history of targeting married women. Julia listened in silence, her face growing paler with each revelation. "So what now?" she asked when I finished. "Now you have a choice. You can keep fighting this divorce, keep trying to take my kids and my house, keep pretending you're the victim in this situation. If you do that, I'll destroy you completely. I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what you did and why. I'll make sure you never see Zoe and Liam except for supervised visits. I'll make sure you leave this marriage with nothing but the clothes on your back. Or you can admit what you did. You can apologize to our children for abandoning them. You can agree to reasonable custody and support arrangements. You can try to rebuild some small piece of your life with whatever dignity you have left." Julia was quiet for a long time, staring at her hands folded in her lap. "I never meant for it to go this far," she said finally. "But it did go this far, and there are consequences." "I know." She looked up at me, and for a moment I saw the woman I'd married 15 years ago, vulnerable, uncertain, human. "I'm sorry, Eric. I'm so sorry." "I'm not the one you need to apologize to," she nodded. "Can I see them? The kids?" "Tomorrow. But Julia, if you hurt them again, if you make promises you don't keep, if you disappear again, if you bring another Gavin into their lives, I will make sure you never see them again. Do you understand?" "I understand." She stood up to leave, then turned back. "For what it's worth, I know you're a good father. You always were. I never should have tried to take them away from you." "No, you shouldn't have." After she left, I sat in my living room and felt something I hadn't experienced in weeks. Peace. Not happiness, that would take time, but peace. The war was over. I'd won, but the victory felt hollow. I'd saved my family, but I'd lost my marriage. I'd protected my children, but they'd lost their mother, at least the version of her they'd thought they knew. My phone rang. "Pete." "How did it go?" "It's over. She's giving up the fight." "Good. You want me to bring the kids home?" "Yeah. It's time." Zoe and Liam came through the door like a small hurricane, full of energy and questions about their sleepover at Uncle Pete's house. They seemed happy, resilient, ready to move forward with whatever came next. As I tucked them into bed, Zoe asked the question I'd been dreading. "Is Mom coming home?" "No, sweetheart, Mom and I are getting divorced, but she loves you very much, and you'll still see her regularly." "Are you sad?" I thought about it. A little, but mostly I'm grateful. "For what?" "For you and Liam, for this house, for the chance to start over and do things better." Zoe considered this with the seriousness that only 11-year-olds can muster. "I think you'll be okay, Dad. You're pretty tough." "Thanks, kiddo. I think you're right." Later that night, I stood in my kitchen making coffee and planning tomorrow. There would be lawyers to call, papers to sign, arrangements to make. There would be difficult conversations with the kids, awkward encounters with neighbors, the long process of rebuilding a life. But for the first time in months, I was looking forward to it. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "This is Michelle. Thank you for warning me about Gavin. You saved me from making a terrible mistake." I smiled and typed back, "Just looking out for a neighbor." Another text, this one from Erica Price. "Heard through the grapevine that Gavin left town. Thank you for finishing what I couldn't. Thank you for giving me the tools to do it. A third text from Tessa. Julia told me what happened. I'm sorry for my part in all this. If you need anything, babysitting, meals, someone to talk to, just ask. Thanks. I'll remember that. I finished my coffee and walked through my house, turning off lights and checking locks. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight I was home, my children were safe, and the war was over. I'd asked for respect and space. Instead, I'd gotten betrayal and lies. But I'd also gotten something else, the chance to discover exactly what I was capable of when pushed too far. Julia had wanted space. Now she had all the space she could handle, and I had my life back.